my life became unacceptable, unmanageable. If I kept going, I would have been in jail, divorced, fat, angry, and drunk. I was self-righteous. It was me who was creating the problem. And when I looked in the mirror, I could then take that first step.
That's where you can de-escalate. You can soften the experience and really get to actual solutions. Some people avoid this process because they're like, I'm just goal-oriented. I just want to get things done. And it's like you're getting in your own way. Couples are often really predictable. And once you get that dance down, it gets fairly clear as to what needs to happen.
Welcome back to The Inside Man. I'm Gary Kadi. You can call me GK. And today, we're getting dirty today. We're going to be tackling when things get heated, how to repair and communicate in a healthy marriage. Now, I've got the world's best expert. He did it for me. And if he could do it for me, he could do it for you for sure. Today, I'm going to share with you who I call the coach's coach, personal growth workshop. I met him there. I was the only guy who did the workshop twice in 1 year, Dave. Wasn't that true? Dave Adamusko, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Gary.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be here. If you could just give us a little background about yourself, introduce yourself, and we're going to unpack this thing called how to have a repaired relationship and one that you can communicate healthy in a relationship.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that introduction, Gary. Honored to be here and to chat with you. Good friend of mine, someone that just really formed a good relationship with. So thank you for having me on and look forward to chatting with you. This is kind of a little bit of a culmination of a lot of things. We have so many good chats and we're always sitting and talking, saying like, hey, we should record this. It'd be great if we had this on, and now we're finally doing it. So look forward to continuing our conversation. I'm a marriage and family therapist by training. And during that process, I've really come to love the study and understanding of relationships. It's something that fascinates me. And I've always wanted to see how they work, why they don't work, how to fix them. And so in that time, I've really set my life and career in helping people understand relationships and working through my own and doing that work as well. So what do I mean by that? When we understand relationships, we often think of external relationships, marriages, relationships with family. And that is certainly one of the things that I've focused on. But through my training, I've come across ways of understanding not just relationships externally, but also relationships with ourselves. And that's sort of the internal family systems, the therapy model created by Dick Schwartz. But taking that and understanding that when our external relationships are injured or not working, there's often something going on within ourselves that we need to look at. And when you can understand and have the wisdom to know the difference, what isn't working is a result of between us, and what isn't working is a result of what's going on within me. When you can separate those two things out, you can make relationships really strong. The external relationships and starting with the internal. And, that's why I love the inside man concept, really healing from that inside out process.
The thing I like about Dave and his work is like, yes, there's a psychological component that he understands, but there's a real life situation where I worked with Dave for 7 years every week. And every week I was slowly understanding that all my blame that I was blaming my wife for, my kid, my son. I sometimes think I have more than one, but my team, Dave, and Dave did a lot of work with me, with how I was leading my team. It's all connected. That's why the inside man, wherever you go in your underwear, there you are, right? Wherever you go, there you are. I want to paint a scenario that I think every listener can relate to. It's like boot camp. Like, I don't need somebody to get in my face. I have enough people in my face, right? I don't need to be forced to do things. What I needed to do was really go inside and take a look at the parts that I haven't been looking at and really go to, bring those to the surface and address them. And it wasn't as difficult as I thought it was. And all I was doing was stuffing it down and avoiding. And that's when I was numbing myself out, drinking and, doing all kinds of crazy, stupid stuff just to distract myself, workaholism. But like when I really got straight, like my life became unacceptable. It was unmanageable. I did not have a manageable life. And I had to throw my hands up and surrender. I was forced to surrender. Hopefully you're out there, you're not forced to surrender this. And by the way, surrendering is to let go of being self-righteous, raising your hand, which is a strength, and asking for help. That's what surrendering means. It's like, and from my perspective, it's not you're soft. It's like, or that you lost the game. You're not broken. You just haven't had somebody guide you. And I didn't have somebody guide me until I met Dave, because his approach was very simple. He's like, what do you want to create? And then we started looking. And like you said, you started at the top from the symptoms. And then I was able to bring it closer to me and identify my own situation where I couldn't be compassionate. One of the things, Dave, that I wanted to highlight here that I think is so poignant is validating how our ladies are feeling, acknowledging what's there. I stepped over that. That one thing usually takes the pressure out of the space, because what Judith told me was like, when you say that, like that I care about, it matters to me what you have to say. It's just how you're saying it. She would say like, it means that you listen to me and that you care about what I have to say. Whereas I was feeling ambushed and I was like, what the hell? Like I had a long day at work and I would like, I wouldn't even know what to do. And I would just spew a bunch of stuff out. And I matched her tone rather than, oh, if I don't step into that, boom. The other thing is, if there was a necessary take responsibility and apologize. I was a self-righteous, because everywhere I went, I was self-righteous. And the other piece I want to highlight here is I thought I would be emasculating myself if I would like apologize. And that's not true. Because she had an experience and I had an experience about our interaction. I didn't want to hurt. I say, I have no intention of hurting my wife. I want to have her shine. I want her to be acknowledged. But, of course, we have arguments. And the thing I found was like, I'm sorry that I upset you, or I'm sorry that, how I spoke to you wasn't appropriate, because that's not my intention. I love you, and I couldn't, because I was so self-righteous, I couldn't even say I love you, and I couldn't even get out, I'm sorry. That's how self-righteous I was. And just giving a little bit of an inch, of like an olive branch I found, even at work, forget apologizing at work. That was never happening. So I started taking, and I use the words take responsibility. And if there was something that was emotionally, look, I was judging whether they should have emotional responses to what I did. That's not my responsibility. And I'm like I have armor on and I have a mask on and I'm like Teflon G, I'm bouncing, like I have no feelings. I'm iced over. So it wasn't until I started feeling my own feelings, I realized when I treated my wife or somebody poorly, I felt badly on the inside from that interaction. I felt like there was a long period of time that I didn't feel anything. I would just tell people all kinds of stuff and piss them off, Dave, right? Well, because I would give you the story and then you would be like, well, how do you think that impacted the other person? I was like, I never considered the other person. I was so self-centered, so self-centered, so self-righteous and I had all these upsets happening around me. And it was all because these people weren't doing what I wanted them to do. And when they didn't do what I wanted them to do, I would get home at 5:01 and crack a bottle of wine and guzzle that bad boy down because I couldn't take life. So that's how I dealt with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And the key to all that is getting more comfortable with being uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. Being able to feel those feelings that are vulnerable, that are hard to feel. And that
Yeah.
doesn't mean you have to wear them on your sleeve. It doesn't mean you have to share them with every single person. But within yourself, you have to know
Yep.
what's up, what's down, what hurts and
Mm-hmm.
what doesn't, what
Yeah.
things particularly bother you because they're there. And, what you're getting to is one of the two words, and you'll know them very well, of what I share with people about taking accountability is simply starting off with saying, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
when you can get good at that over time, you will change your brain from this warped sense of always finding what's wrong to
Yep.
getting really curious about what's right about what this person is saying.
Yep.
And
Yep.
you kind of alluded to it, but yeah, like in the home setting with your spouse, that's a very intimate relationship, and that's going to get deeper into where you're sharing more intimate things. But in the leadership coaching that I do, it's also appropriate for work within its certain bounds. To be able to say to somebody, to start off with what we were talking about before, about saying like, hey, it matters to me that you're having this problem with your team. It matters to me that you're upset about this. Simply being in a leadership position and sharing that with somebody who's bringing something to you, rather than like, all right, what's the problem? What, this person's doing this thing again. We all know that they always get annoyed about this, and trying to push back and contain people. Sometimes just letting them in a little bit and leaning in and saying, hey, it sounds like what happened really was frustrating you. Like, what I want you to know is it matters to me. We may not agree on everything about this, but the fact that you're bothered by it, it matters. And let's figure it out. And that's where you can de-escalate. You can soften the experience and really get to actual solutions. Some people avoid this process because they're like, I'm just goal oriented. I just want to get things done. And it's like, you're getting in your own way. There's an easier way to do it. It might be harder for you at the moment because it involves knowing your own emotions, knowing your own patterns, your own central nervous system. But once you can do that, you become so much more effective. You spend so much less time with trivial arguments and interpersonal stuff, and you can really thrive.
Yeah. And I want to say something about sexual thriving. Men are, we're like physical, like we could have sex and just like that, we just want to have sex. When it comes to a woman, they want to have intimacy. Like my wife would be like, hey, let's be romantic and intimate. And it's like, I was like, okay. But when I have all these breaks with her, the intimacy is completely out. Right. And it just we're just separate. We're just disconnected. So we weren't making love, it was like we were kind of getting together and sleeping in the same bed. But there's something magical about really going to work in this area. So you have I'm all about chronic joy and zero suffering, because I used to have chronic suffering and zero joy. And in order to do that, really taking responsibility in the tools that we've given you so far, when moments get heated, and then the cascade of that is, you get to come home to a house that's peaceful. You get to, at night, make beautiful love with your wife. And then what happens is there's a turning point where, when I was, getting in my wife's, and my wife doesn't create problems. It was me who was creating the problem. And when I instead of blaming her, looked in the mirror, I could then take that first step of some of the tools you gave. And then all of a sudden, day by day, things kept getting better and better. And, I'm sincerely grateful for that, by the way, because I never thought, there was no power of example in my life, Dave, where I could see what a healthy relationship looked like. I was kind of like flying by the seat of my pants. And look, if I kept going, I would have been dead, in jail, divorced, fat, angry, and drunk was like my default, successful in business. I mean, I can crank out a business, make money, have a business run, have an impact on society, but forget the rest, So we talked about a lot of like reactionary issues, but I want to take a step back, if we may. And it's couples who thrive, Dave, that you taught me. Couples who thrive don't avoid conflict. They repair faster, right? You taught me like the faster you compare. So like at first, like, I wasn't saying you're right. I wasn't saying I'm sorry. I wasn't saying, I wasn't seeing my role in the matter, right? So, but there's been like years, I'm coming up on 22 years of being married, 24 being together. And the journey's just been extraordinary. And I've learned so much about myself and my wife and that now get to teach it to others because I found a way to have it work through you. And I'm grateful for that. Give us some direction here. If somebody's been in a marriage forever and we're going to take the conflict out of it, what would be something that you could recommend? Like, let's not look for tools for when things are heated, but let's just like, you want to up level your relationship and connection with your partner. Let's unpack that a little bit. What would you recommend here?
There's a great relationship researcher named John Gottman, Dr. John Gottman. His books have been pretty popular, even with non-clinical people. But he did this remarkable study a long time ago that keeps giving to the relationship world, where he wasn't a therapist at the time and he didn't really care much about that. He just wanted to understand. He's just curious, a researcher, wanted to understand more about relationships. So he took these couples and put them in a apartment setting with their consent, and he studied them longitudinally, which means over time. And he got all this data back. And what he found was pretty interesting and powerful and kind of changed the relationship therapy world kind of overnight. In that, what he found is that couples that interact, it isn't about the conflict. Because he found these couples that he would record and code their interactions, and he labeled the ones that appeared to be happy as the masters, and the ones that were very much not happy and reported being not happy, they were the disasters. He found that, everyone for a long time was like, we got to resolve conflict, and we got to make sure like the conflict that we're in, we don't get in anymore. And what he found is the people that were happy over time kept coming back, and the arguments they did get into were the same arguments, And I say, like, I have the same argument with my wife about the dishwasher, about the way that it should be loaded rinsed first. And we have that often because she comes from a non-rinsing family. And that's just the way it is. And it wasn't the fact that couples that were happy and successful had these conversations and never returned to the same argument. It was the way that they spoke to each other. So there's this famous ratio of 5-1. He found that couples, even during conflict, when they were having conversations, that there was a 5-1 positive to negative communication style, which means they communicated 5 positive things to 1 negative thing. And sometimes just simply being aware of your own ratio. How often am I saying something kind or nice, or not even just kind and nice, but responsive? He found that the masters, when one person said something, the other person responded. And that may seem like simple. And what are you talking about? Well, they were in these apartment complexes. I think they were in Washington, kind of near the water. And one person might look out and say, "Oh, honey, look at that sailboat. I've always wanted to just get on a boat and sail around the world with you." That is what he calls a bid. It's a bid for attention. And when couples would respond to those bids, I forget the exact percentage, but it's the majority of time with some sort of comment of, "Oh, that would be great. I'd love to spend that time with you." Or, "Oh, that's a cool one over there. What about that one?" Or even, "Yeah, I don't really like boats, but if you go, have fun." Like something even joking or playful. Though, like that tiny little interaction that had nothing to do with conflict often measured couples feeling happy and comfortable with each other. The disasters responded negatively, where, "We can't afford that boat." Or, I don't like boats. Why would you even say that? Or
Mm,
sometimes we also discovered is that if there was a non-response,
mm,
and so a person in a relationship will make a bid, and if they don't respond, they will not rebid again.
mm.
And so just the simple thing of, am I, how am I engaging with my wife? Sometimes we're unaware of the tone of voice we take. Sometimes with kids and work and everything else that's really stressful, we forget to just take a breath and engage with our spouse in a non-adversarial way.
Yeah.
How are you? How's your day?
Yeah.
And our tone of voice, our body language, all those things fall into those nonverbal communications. And so I'm really big, on that awareness of how regulated am I right now?
Mm,
What if someone were listening to my tone of voice? What would they say? There are times when I go home and I am just kind of mean. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to be sarcastic, but I just had a long day, a lot of engaging, a lot of talking. And when I go home, sometimes I just have this tone in my voice and I will hear myself say something to my wife and I will go, that sounded rude and I don't mean to be.
yeah.
And if I'm aware of that, I can say that. And I can even be honest to say something as simple as, you know what? I'm being, I'm being kind of shitty and I don't mean to be. I don't know what's going on. I'm not sure how to change it. But even just saying out loud, like, I must be really stressed and I don't mean to take it out on you,
Yeah.
lowers the temperature of the room. What are the things
Yeah.
that the little engagements that we can do to lower the temperature?
Well, you gave me one. I mean, for me, I always thought like I expressed my love to my wife by buying her, like I'll never, the big joke is I buy her Gucci shoes. She doesn't care about Gucci shoes. Like she looks nice in whatever she can go to Target and find something and be like stunning. It's like, but I'm like, you need Gucci shoes. You need this purse. Like she's not into gifts. I would acknowledge her. I go, honey, you're gorgeous. She's like, no, I'm bloated. She's like, no, I'm not beautiful. So acknowledgement doesn't work. And meanwhile, I would come home from work and I'd still have to get work done. Like I forgot to send that email. I'd be picking up my phone every 2 seconds. And you know what my wife wanted? This was like changed everything in terms of like taking the temperature down, not being on the phone and being an important guy like I am at work, like being on the level with her and checking in with her. So like, how was your day? Like what we even framed the question, what was great about your day today? What fine greatness happened to you instead of what fine hell found you, right? So just that one little tweak and then me getting off my phone. Now I would run to the bathroom and it was funny because like after a while she knew I would run to the bathroom because I had to be on my phone and she would hold the wipe, like she would be holding a wipe. Like, so I wiped the phone because I was in the bathroom, being on my phone. It was hilarious. Right. But, these little tools of like, just to review some of these, getting transition time for men, structuring time so that I eliminated the ambush. It didn't happen all the time. There were days that, maybe the phone call on the way home or whatever, I knew it was going to be hot. So my energy be changing even before I got into the door. Oh, that was the other thing. I made sure I had 20 minutes between my last call and getting home. I even have my office here 20 minutes away from my house so that men need transition time. We need to build it in. That's up to us. Because when I have transition time and I could take my watch off and put it in the tray and put sweats on, it takes my temperature down. It gets me transitioned out, So
Right.
that's a big thing. And then if you do get ambushed, it's like what you have to say to me really matters. I really care, And right now, how you're saying it, I can't listen and hear, and I care about what you have to say, and I want to hear it. And so let's just take a minute here. That was extraordinary, Dave, in order to get that through. And then really having the ability to notice inside myself, like what's going on over here, so that once I've regulated that, then I could have the conversation. Also, you're right and I'm sorry. Those four words, or two pairs of words, you're right and I'm sorry, really take the temperature down immediately in a big way. And then lastly, when you're listening to your wife, and 10 out of 10 times, I'm going to say, we guys want to go fix the problem from a practical. I love what you said about the practical nature of, a practical problem and a practical solution. And that's where I think there's the disconnect. And this is where we can connect by really putting in, do you need me to hug you? Do you need me to hear you? Do you need me to help you? 9 out of 10 times, it's never help. It's like, I want to be heard or I need a hug. That's really what is needed. And that just diffuses everything most of the time, as well. So, couples who don't thrive, couples who thrive, Dave, the thing you taught me is they don't avoid conflict. They just repair faster.
Right.
Like this idea of repair, just define that as we close, define repairing. What does that mean?
Yeah, well, couples are always in a continuous state of moving from harmony to disharmony and then back to harmony again. So it's connection, disconnection, and then reconnection. That is how relationships work. And it's going to happen whether your relationship is terrible or it's great. So the difference between terrible and great is usually who can manage that transition. And so repair is a process in which couples just get really good at taking their own personal accountability and get really patient and hold a lot of grace for their partner and where they're at. And once you get into a pattern where couples, the easy thing about my job is that couples are often really predictable. And once you get that dance down, once you understand that cycle, it gets fairly clear as to what needs to happen. The hard part is helping people understand their own pattern and getting patience with the other person. And so repair is where there is rupture, there's healing. Just like physical pain or physical wounds take time to heal and repair, it's regenerative. Our bodies are pretty amazing. Our emotional capacity to repair is also really flexible. And so being able to take that accountability, to recognize that there's disconnection and find reconnection. And there's lots of ways in which that happens and really specific ways of how to do that.
Well, the inside man concept is all about owning your role, your side of the street, standing in your truth, and really loving and taking responsibility without losing yourself, right? You spoke about and Judith and I have one pattern that just repeats itself over and over again. When you help me identify that pattern and see my role in the matter, I could transform it, right? Because I didn't have to, it takes two people to have that happen, but I can diffuse it and shift it. And what I learned is like when I go first, leadership, it means you go first. When I went first, then Judith started going, and then we both moved together. And so if you're looking to take a deeper dive at this, Dave is a part of our coaching program. We're going to do 6 months of coaching, and you're going to be able to identify your patterns and see this. We're going to take deeper dives in the coaching that we're offering. You can go to this QR code and go on my website there. And then it's Dave, it's so exciting here in Carefree. It's going to be at Sivana. We're going to be doing experiential learning, Rope's course about trusting yourself, trusting your partner. We're going to be doing horseplay, how to lead by leading horses, because horses don't lie. They lead through connection. So it's going to be a game changer. And Dave is also going to work with your wives, your partners, and set them up at this session to be able to, you're going to be an evolved, elevated man and how to interact with that. And that's going to be a priceless coaching session for your partner as well. So Dave, thank you for being a part of the mentor, being a co-mentor with me for these high achieving men, and really taking deeper dives for those that really want to go there to really drive forth, like mastering this methodology, which is really, it transforms the man, it transforms the home, it transforms the kids, It transforms the workplace, because what's common to all those places is you in your underwear, because that's where you go. One guy said, I said that in a seminar once, and the guy goes, I don't wear underwear. I'm like, dude, overshare on that. Like, you didn't have to yell that out, dude. Right? Dave, would you like some and give some parting thoughts and how people can get in communication with you if you'd like to speak with Dave directly?
Yeah, just parting thoughts of great to see you again, Gary.
Yeah.
Love chatting with you. Our conversations are always meaningful, and I love just being part of your life and seeing you grow, and you've done the same for me. So appreciate it. And people interested in finding me, you can find me at therapywithdave.com, and also on Instagram at therapywithdave. I do a podcast and post some clips on there. And there are places in both those platforms where you can reach out if you're interested in learning more about me and what I do.
Thanks, Dave. All right.
Thank you, Gary.
Inside Men. I'll see you when I see you. See you in the next episode. Thanks for joining us.